watching Tell It Like It Is, and my name is Kathy Benuck. And today you are watching our series on candidates who are seeking office in Bedford for this year's 2014 town election. And election day is Tuesday, March 11th. Mark it down. During the series, I'll be interviewing candidates for the town council, the school board, town clerk, and town moderator. The candidates this year did have some opportunities to do more than one show. They were invited to do Tell It Like It Is, and they were also invited to appear on the BCTV produced show called Candidates Corner. Council and school board members had an additional opportunity to participate in the Bedford Men's Club debates. You know, hopefully you would think that all candidates would take at least one opportunity if they want you to vote for them. Only two candidates did not bother to respond to my invitation to appear and Tell It Like It Is, and they were town council candidate David Coles and town clerk candidate Courtney Hodgton, however she pronounces it. Coles did not participate in the town council debate, and neither one of them did participate in Candidates Corner either. You know, frankly, and this is my editorial comment, if they didn't, I don't know why anybody would bother to vote for them. But anyway, the Tell It Like It Is series is very different than the Candidate Corner shows because with Candidate Corner, the candidates did have the opportunity to choose who they would like to interview them. And there was really no rule or requirement as to how questions would be asked or what questions would be asked. On this show, I'm obviously doing the interviews, and candidates have absolutely no idea what I'm going to ask them in advance. And to be as fair as possible, with each race, I'll ask the candidates in the same race the same questions. All shows are going to be released at the same time, so therefore no candidate can view the show of his or her opponent prior to doing their own show. Now, in addition to these shows appearing on BCTV, they'll also be posted on my show's website, which is www.tellitlikeitisnh.com. The candidates did provide their own background information to me. Some were very long and very detailed. Others were shorter and kind of like bullet points. Now, again, to try to keep the introductions as close in length as possible in fairness to the candidates, I then kind of picked out of each person's bio the information that I thought was the most relevant to you, the viewer, related to the election. Now, and again, to be fair, every single one of my candidate shows, I'm opening with these same remarks. So again, the same amount of time is taken in each one of their shows. I do ask that all candidates try to keep their answers pointed, mainly so that all of the questions will get asked and answered, and then they can return to any subject they choose when they have the opportunity to tell you more about themselves at the end of the show. So, having said all that, the candidate on this show is a candidate for town clerk, and that would be Diane O'Neil. And Diane is an original Massachusetts gal and went to Marion Court College, which was very well known in Swampscott, Mass. And then went on to get additional work done dealing with all kinds of technical stuff that I know very little about at the Unix Programming School. And she also went to University of Southern New Hampshire to acquire certificates there as well. Her kind of first entree into the business world, if you will, was working for 10 years for the town of Saugus, Massachusetts. So she got some governmental experience. And then she moved up to Bedford, New Hampshire, roughly around 1990, and very quickly wound up working for some nonprofits, getting a different type of experience. She worked for the New Hampshire Public Risk Management Exchange, for the Heritage United Way, for Elliott Senior Health Center, for Daniel Webster College, and also for New Hampshire Catholic Charities. So kind of a broad look at that end of the world. She's been very, very involved in the community. She participated with the Memorial School Solicitation Committee, has been a volunteer for, I guess, untold numbers of field trips and class trips, has worked as a Bedford Recreation basketball coach, was part of the Bedford Dog Park project, something that people are still arguing about, and also worked on the Streets Family Project. So, having said all that, let's get right to the candidate.
Hi. Nice to meet you,
Nice to meet
Kathy.
you.
Thanks
Thank you for
having me.
coming, and thank you. A lot of people don't realize that as we're taping this is wild snowstorm going on out there. So
I know, it's
thanks for
crazy
braving
out
the
here.
elements.
Thanks.
This winter's not going away.
No, it isn't. It came in like a lion, that's for sure.
Oh, I can't wait for it to be over.
30 more days, they say.
I hope.
To spring, so.
Well, this is kind of almost like a three-part question, the opening one. A previous sitting town council, and I'm sure you probably remember this, cut the financial compensation for the town clerk. And then the next town council restored that cut and brought the salary back to the level it had been before the cut. Now, before running and being elected to town clerk, Laurie Radke, who's the incumbent, did serve on the town council. So I guess the question is, the three-part is, do you think that possibly when all that was going on, when they did have that salary cut, that it might have been political payback for any position that she might have taken as a town councilor? Are you aware that when they did that, whether or not they also reduced the duties of the job, since the pay was being cut? And I mean, what do you think about that? Do you think that the salary should remain as it is now and not be subject to all these council changes?
Okay, we can go to the first part of the question as far as, because I'm not a political person
I
at
understand.
all, not involved in politics. Any of my experiences with, being involved with the town, and my husband as well is on the planning board, sort of, we're just the behind the scenes kind of people volunteering for stuff. So I really have no knowledge of, any payback or anything like that.
So you didn't have a gut sense of anything like that?
I really don't.
Yeah,
I don't want to comment on something that I really don't know about.
Okay.
I know that did come up, that there was discussions about, cutting the salary. That was a hot button 3 years ago when I ran. And, folks had approached me about what my thoughts were on the compensation. Basically, what I had done and what I have done again this year is do some research on, comparable sized communities and responsibilities for the town clerk, and what that means. And basically, I feel that position, based on the size of the community and the responsibilities that the town clerk has, it is comparable. So I'm not sure where the pay cut came in other than were the responsibilities cut. If you look at the position historically, the position historically was someone who originally was working at the town hall, and it was a tax collector town clerk position. That separated, so the duties...
As the town grew, I assume.
I'm sorry?
As the town grew,
exactly.
I would assume,
Right. So some changes, I think, were made to the position as, as it transitioned along. But the position itself is accountable. It's a full-time position. It's accountable for all of the responsibilities a town clerk is responsible for under the RSAs. So if those responsibilities are not being done by the current town clerk, I'm not sure, but maybe there were thoughts out there that was the case. I don't know. So that's kind of how I can answer that question.
Okay, no, that's a fair answer, now, we just kind of brought up the town council a bit. Does the town council, to your knowledge, have supervisory abilities over the town clerk? Or can they define the responsibilities of the job?
The town clerk's position is accountable to the state.
Okay.
They have to adhere to the RSAs. There are certain responsibilities that they are required to follow through on. As far as the town council and what their role is as far as supervising them, they don't supervise the town clerk, but they are accountable for that town clerk to get the job done. And if that clerk is not doing, if they feel that they're not doing their job and adhering to those RSAs, then they do have the authority to pull her out and appoint pull somebody out. They have that authority.
Even though she's elected?
To do that. I'm sorry?
Even though the position is elected?
Under the RSAs, they have the authority to do that if they feel that the job is not being done under the RSAs.
I did not realize that.
Yeah.
Wow.
In any, I mean, that's a state law.
So if it were just in their view that they didn't like the way something was handled?
If they're not adhering to, if they're not doing the position, if they're not adhering to the RSAs and getting the job done under that accountability.
I did not realize they would have the authority to do that. I just assumed it would be the voters who'd say, see you later. Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. I did not know that. Huh. The town clerk obviously plays a role in the election process. Have you had chance to kind of get a sense of what it is before, during, and after an election?
I've never been able to volunteer for the election itself. I had asked in the past to be a volunteer, but have not had the opportunity. I would love to have the opportunity. I'm hoping to be a part of that process. I think there's opportunities for streamlining that process, and I know that.
In what way? Anything specific you'd
Well, I know
to?
that from what I've heard, in any election in any town,
Sure.
there's always backups and things that that happen during the course of the day. I'd love to be a part of that process to help maybe streamline it and make the process go a little bit better if possible.
I don't know that the clerk has any authority over that. I think that's more like the moderator's job.
Right, I would like to work with
the actual process,
work with the moderator on that process. If there's any, clogs in the wheel, or how can we make it better? What can I do to make it better? How can I help with the volunteers if need me, and that kind of stuff.
Okay. In addition to the myriad of services that a town clerk does have to provide to residents, whether it be the marriage license, the dog license, or whatever. To your knowledge, is the town clerk also performing services for the council itself or for any of the town departments? Is that kind of all part of the job?
I believe that that currently in Bedford that she's working, that the position is working with the cemetery department as well, with vital records, death certificates and that kind of stuff. Dog licensing comes under the town clerk. All licensures come under the town clerk. I'm sorry, what was the other part of the question?
No, well, just basically, let me go backwards too, so I don't, phrase it wrong. Are you aware of different services that to both other town departments and to the town council that the town clerk would be responsible for?
Well, I think they would be interacting a lot with the tax collector as well, because that also comes under the RSAs as a responsibility between the town clerk and the tax collector. Interacting with obviously the deputy town clerk, who's appointed by the town clerk. The town council, I would think they would have to be at certain meetings with regard to the position.
Record keeping, that kind of thing, or
maybe budget. I would say budget information that you would have to present.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Because everybody, every department has to
maybe
present
minutes.
that.
I don't know if I don't think she's doing minutes.
No. Generally, I think the practice has been the town manager's assistant is the person who's doing the town
so
council.
I don't think she's doing any types of
other
minutes
boards
like
and
that.
such have other ways, different ways of doing it, which I'm sure you know, because you've been kind of active following a lot of them. I mean, sometimes it's a member of the board. Other things there have been town employees that are assigned to work with that board or committee or what have you, who and then in turn do their record keeping, minutes, whatever.
Right. So
I was just always glad it wasn't me that had to do the minutes.
I've been there.
Yeah, they can be kind of a pain, can't they?
They can, but
it's not as bad as if it's like a summary, but when a word for word is expected, like with the town council, for example, their minutes tend to be very he said, she said, someone counted, whatever,
Right.
whatever. And yeah, I would not want to be responsible for that.
No, that's not fun. Those are long minutes.
Yes, yes.
I like to do the summary ones myself.
Yeah, I can understand that. Now, to your way of thinking, all right, because you wouldn't have gone into the race twice unless you had some strong thoughts on it.
Right.
What do you think is the most important function of a town clerk?
I think being a face of the community, I think that the community needs to interact with the town clerk. It's a key position within the town. Being available to the community, being there on a full-time basis, connecting with folks, just being a part of interacting with all of the departments and having a general knowledge of what's going on within the town, because I think a lot of people, including myself, you want to walk up, walk up to that town clerk, and if you have a question, feel comfortable asking them, and if they don't have the answer, that they'll find out the answer for you. Just being a face of the community.
Now, and again, I'm sure that you've kind of observed Bedford with relation to town clerk. Is there anything that in your own mind, that you look at it and say, I think this should be changed, or I think we need to add this? Do you have any sense of anything like that yet?
I don't really think I have a sense of anything like that because I'm not in the position, just from some things that I've heard in my own personal experiences and other folks that I've spoken with, their personal experiences, where I think that some changes can be made. I think, more FaceTime with the town clerk, being able to call and ask questions and not getting transferred to other departments when, you think that you can call and ask a question about registrations or anything like that, because that comes under the town clerk's position. My personal experiences have been, I've been transferred to different departments. So I think that position should be accountable for all of the responsibilities that go with the position, and what the community thinks that they're reaching out to the town clerk should have the answers for.
Now, when you were transferred to the people who were able to give you the appropriate answer?
Yes.
So, I don't know, do you see that as a fault of the town clerk? Because I don't think the town clerk could possibly know, like, the inner workings of every department.
I'm not necessarily saying it's a fault, but I think as a town clerk, what comes in the responsibilities under that position is to know that information and not necessarily be transferred to somebody else for that information. And I think that probably goes with the history of the position and what happened, as it transitioned into the current incumbent, and how that may have come about, where the certain things are being done in a different manner by different folks in different departments. And do I think that that's, if you're asking me, do I think that's the way it should be? Personally, I think that a town clerk should be accountable for all of, and should have the knowledge of all of the responsibilities of the town clerk, and not have other folks working on that, or at least have the knowledge of it.
Of the town clerk position.
If that's the way the process is.
But you don't mean the rest of the departments as well, or you do mean the rest of the departments?
No, they don't need to have knowledge of all of the departments, but what they should be doing. In other words, if I'm going to call about a car registration, which comes under the town clerk's RSAs, that they should be knowledgeable in that, or that they should be doing those registrations, just using that as an example, that the town clerk should be able to do that, answer questions, and as well do that, process a car registration.
Okay.
I guess that's kind of where I'm coming from, because those
for your own personal experience more so than anything?
Right.
Okay. Now, do you think that there's anything that's not fully utilized by the town clerk's office in Bedford, whether or not that be through a choice or because they're not getting enough funding through the town council because the town council's trying to hold the budget down?
When you say fully used?
Utilized, yeah. I mean, do you think there's anything that related to the town clerk's office that could better serve the people and maybe isn't because of a funding issue or what have you. That, the town council has said, well, we're putting our money in this direction this time. We can't spend it on everybody.
I don't think I could answer that question because I'm not being in the position, but maybe being in the position, it would give opportunity to take a look at that, and if there are opportunities there, and if there is, if you're getting pushback because of budget reasons, maybe to take a look at that and see what makes the most sense.
Yeah, because I think every department head has been asked to either cut or something, to try to hold the budget down.
Sure.
Although and again, I'm sitting here and I don't have a budget in front of me, so I can't really state fact here. But I think in terms of the overall town, the budget set aside for town clerk is probably pretty small.
It is.
So there probably isn't really any room there that they would be able to make any cuts. But I didn't know if you had identified something that you think is more important, that they should be taking care of.
I haven't really identified anything in the budget, and I wouldn't be able to look at it line item by line item anyways, but it is a very small budget.
Yeah, I think it is, yeah. Do you think that the services, and because you've mentioned RSAs a lot, so you've obviously done some research, do you think that the responsibilities of services offered here in Bedford, do you think they're different, better, or anything than other communities? Do you think community to community they're all pretty much the same, or
the services?
They're services.
All, I would say as far as the services go, they're accountable to the state, and through the state there are various. Everybody has their own processes of how they process their work, but you're still accountable to the state, so you have to do things a certain way, and that's how it flows. Some communities of the same size, the town clerk does all of the responsibilities that come under a town clerk. That's not necessarily happening here at this point in Bedford.
Okay. Anything that you could zero in on?
Well, I think specifically what I was talking about is in some communities the town clerk is also the tax collector. They're also doing licensing and registrations, boat registrations, car registrations. There are various things that aren't being done through the town clerk at this point, from what I understand.
Do you think that's just simply because of size of the town?
No, I don't.
No?
No.
What do you think the reason might be?
I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm quizzy, so I ask these questions.
Yeah, I asked that question myself as well. Why aren't those responsibilities coming under the town clerk?
Okay, yeah, because I genuinely do not know if any of those responsibilities by either town management standards or by statute or by anything would fall under the tax collector, for example, where it would involve money transactions, that kind of thing. I don't know.
Well, right now the tax collector is separate here in Bedford, but in other communities, they're both. It's tax collector, town clerk.
Yeah, I'd just be kind of curious if that's solely because of size. Because we do have so many little tiny towns in New Hampshire,
Yeah, I don't necessarily believe it's because of size, because I've done some research and they're doing both.
Do you have at this point?
It's a big position.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It is. It's a big position.
It is. We have we're doing good on time. Do you have something in your own mind right now? And this was not a question I asked your opponent, but we have enough time to ask it, and I'm sure that this would not be objectionable to her. Do you have something in your own mind right now? Having watched the job, you've run for it before, the whole 9 yards. Something that that if I'm elected, this is one of the first things I'm going to do. Have you found something like that?
One of the things I'd like to look at, and I don't want to say that to knock the process in any way, because I give the person who's in the position now a lot of credit for going out there and trying to get those dogs licensed, and really
that I guess has been an issue in more than 1 year in Bedford. And I
think the issue comes for a couple of reasons, and that being that, you know, sending folks to people's homes and using those resources in town when maybe some of those dogs may have passed away. You know, is there opportunity to sort of not go full steam ahead, take a step back, you know, look at the process and say, there might be a better way to do this where we're not just sending somebody out to somebody's home with a warrant or saying, you know, if you don't pay your, sorry, I talk with my hands a little bit.
No, I do it constantly. I have been, one time I went and had somebody come in and stand behind the camera and hold his hand up and go like that, you know, and I was afraid they were going to start tying my arm to the chair because I was carrying on a lot.
So I think that there's opportunity to look at that process and sort of just take a step back a little bit and say, maybe there's a better way to do this where we're not walking up to somebody's door who lost their dog a month ago.
Is that what they do? Did they go to the door?
Yeah.
Now who? The animal control officer? Or who is it?
I'm not sure. I think probably, to be honest with you, I'm not sure who gets sent. If it's a police officer or animal control, if they are a police officer, not sure. I didn't look into that, but I do know that
I hadn't heard that.
Folks have gotten, you know, you get notices and notices.
Yeah, you do get, you get the notice.
So to me, is there opportunity to take a step back, look at that, and how can we do that better? That's one thing I would take a look at. I also would take a look at, you know, going in and really jumping in and looking at how I can get in there and look at all processes and how they're done. And be completely educated in the position so that I know all of the areas and be able to do all of the responsibilities that the town clerk should be doing.
Okay.
Under the RSAs.
Well, I am looking at the clock, and we have managed to now have less than 2 minutes left.
Wow.
So what I'll ask you to do is look right at that camera, tell people why they should vote for you, and anything you feel you want to get across that we didn't get across here.
Okay, great, thanks. My name is Diane O'Neil. I am running for town clerk. I'm back again a second time, and I really would love to represent you and be the face in the community in the town of Bedford. Hopefully have opportunity to connect with all of you the day of voting, and hope you can get out there on March 11th. And I would be happy and proud to serve you as town clerk. So get out there and vote. I look forward to meeting you. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch.
Nice job. You did that very, very concisely.
Thank you.
Yeah, got across what you wanted to say. Thanks. Well, you know, thanks for coming on the show, and best of luck in your campaign.
Thank you. Appreciate
I
it.
always admire anybody who has the fortitude to stand up and get counted as a candidate, because as you know, we've had uncontested elections and everything else in Bedford. So, you know, we need people who are willing to get up and get their ideas in there and go through the turmoil of a campaign, and knowing that if they're elected, there'll be times when they'll look in the mirror and go, what the heck did I ever do that for? So, best of luck with your campaign, and glad you made it here.
Thanks so much, Kathy. I appreciate it.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks.
Well, another candidate, and hopefully by the end of this series, you'll know all of them and you'll know exactly who you want to vote for. But the big thing is to remember to vote on Tuesday, March 11th. Hang in with us and keep watching the series so you'll get to see all of them. Until then, thank you so much for watching this show, and until next time, bye-bye.